April 1917, the Western Front. If you look up at the sky, it seems peaceful. The clouds are white, the sun is shining. But for the pilots of the British Royal Flying Corps, this sky is a graveyard. History would remember this month as Bloody April, and the statistics are terrifying. The life expectancy of a new Allied pilot arriving at the front lines is measured not in years or months, but in hours, specifically 17.5 hours of flight time. That is all they have before they are shot down, burned alive, or crushed into the mud of no man's land. The British are losing 5 planes for every 1 German plane they shoot down. It is a slaughter. The German Albatross fighters are superior machines, faster, deadlier, and hunting in packs. But there is one machine that stands out from the rest. It doesn't use camouflage. It doesn't try to blend in with the clouds or the ground. It is painted a screaming, violent shade of crimson red. When British pilots see this speck of red in the distance, panic sets in. Their hands grip the controls tighter. Their breath becomes shallow, because they know that this is not just a plane. It is a message. Inside that red cockpit sits a man who has turned war into a cold, calculated sport, Manfred von Richthofen. To his countrymen, he is a hero, the Red Battle Flyer. To his enemies, he is the Red Devil. In a war defined by the faceless industrial slaughter of millions in the trenches, Richthofen has become something else entirely. He is the last knight. He is the hunter of kings. And in this bloody month of April alone, he will personally shoot down 21 aircraft. But the man behind the goggles is not the monster the propaganda makes him out to be. He is a young man, born of nobility, suffering from head injuries, and slowly watching all his friends die around him. To understand his death, we must first understand his birth. Manfred Albrecht Freiherr von Richthofen was born on May 2, 1892, into a world that was about to disappear. He was a Prussian aristocrat, the son of a major. In his world, honor was everything. War was noble. It was about courage, horses, and sabers. From the age of 11, he was sent to the military cadet corps. He wasn't a brilliant student. He was athletic, a fantastic horseman, and a skilled hunter of wild boar and deer in the forests of his estate. This hunting instinct, the patience, the aim, the thrill of the chase, would later define his career in the sky. When the Great War erupted in 1914, Manfred achieved his dream. He was an officer in the 1st Regiment of Uhlans. He rode a horse into battle. He expected glory. But World War I was not the war he had read about in books. It was a war of machine guns and barbed wire. Within weeks, the cavalry was obsolete. A man on a horse was simply a large, slow target for a machine gunner. The glorious charges never happened. Instead, Richthofen found himself doing something humiliating for a nobleman. He was assigned to the supply corps. Imagine the frustration. A warrior trained to fight, now reduced to counting sacks of flour and guarding boxes of eggs in the rear lines. The mud of the trenches had swallowed the glory of war. Depressed and bored, he wrote a letter to his commanding officer that would change history. He wrote, "My dear Excellency, I have not gone to war in order to collect cheese and eggs, but for another purpose." He requested a transfer to the Imperial German Army Air Service, not because he loved flying, he had never even been in a plane, but because he wanted to see the enemy. He wanted to hunt. His request was granted. But his start was not legendary. In fact, it was embarrassing. During his first flight as a pilot, he underestimated the landing speed and crashed his plane, destroying it completely. He failed his pilot's exam on the first attempt. He was reckless, impatient, and clumsy. He was not a natural-born pilot, but he was relentless. Fate intervened in the form of a chance meeting on a train. In 1916, while traveling in a dining car, Richthofen met Oswald Bölke. Bölke was already a legend, Germany's top ace and a master tactician. He was the man who wrote the Dicta Bölke, the rules of air combat that are still taught today. Richthofen asked him, "How do you do it? How do you shoot them down?" Bölke looked at the eager young man and replied simply, "It is quite simple. I fly close to my man, aim well, and then of course he falls down." Bölke saw potential in Richthofen's aggression. He selected him for his new elite squadron, Jasta II. Under Bölke's mentorship, Richthofen transformed. He stopped flying for the thrill and started flying with his brain. He learned that air combat was not about stunts. It was about geometry. It was about attacking from the sun so the enemy couldn't see you. It was about getting close, so close you could see the pilot's scarf before firing. On September 17, 1916, Richthofen scored his first confirmed kill. It was a British two-seater over France. He wrote about it in his diary. "I gave a short burst. I was so close that I was afraid I might dash into him. Suddenly, his propeller stopped turning. The plane fell." But tragedy struck Jasta too quickly. In October 1916, during a chaotic dogfight, Oswald Bölke's plane collided with a friendly aircraft. He spiraled down and crashed. He was killed instantly. Richthofen was devastated. He had lost his mentor, his teacher. But now the student was ready to become the master. After Bölke's death, Richthofen began his cold ritual of collecting trophies. For every plane he shot down, he commissioned a small silver cup from a jeweler in Berlin. He engraved the date and the type of aircraft on it. 1 cup, 2 cups, 10 cups. The collection grew fast. He began to cut pieces of fabric with serial numbers from the planes he destroyed, sending them home to his mother. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a celebrity, and he needed a brand. July 6, 1917. The air is deceptively calm, warm up high, thermals rolling like invisible tides. Richthofen patrols over enemy lines in his red fighter, scanning the sky with the slow, methodical rhythm of a man who has done this too many times to count. Below him, British aircraft scatter through broken cloud like startled birds. He chooses one. He dives. The engine screams as gravity takes hold. Wind smashes against the fuselage. The cockpit vibrates with predatory speed. Tracers rise past his wings, late, sloppy, panicked. He lines up the shot, and then a single crack. Not a roar, not an explosion, a crack like a hammer striking porcelain. The bullet enters the right side of his skull. There is no pain at first, just light, blinding, total, merciless white. The world does not fade, it detonates. His vision collapses inward. The sky disappears. The enemy disappears. The horizon disappears. For several seconds, Richthofen cannot see. At 10,000 feet, in a vibrating machine made of fabric and gasoline, blood pours into his goggles, warm and sticky, instantly freezing at the edges in the thin air. His right arm spasms. The aircraft lurches. He is flying blind. The cold slams into him. The engine's vibration becomes a distant thunder, as if he's hearing it through water. Depth vanishes. Up and down lose their meaning. His ears ring with a shrill, endless tone. This is how he will die, he thinks, not in fire, but in darkness. By instinct alone, he yanks the stick back. The aircraft bucks. Negative G-force crushes him against the harness. Blackness crawls inward from the edges of his vision. Slowly, agonizingly, the light returns. First as mist, then as shapes, then as smeared color. He is still airborne, barely. Richthofen points the nose toward German lines and begins a slow, trembling descent. The aircraft shudders. A misjudged touch could tear the wings free. On the ground, mechanics see the red aircraft wobbling in like a wounded animal. It lands hard. One wheel collapses. The nose dips. The propeller shatters in a burst of splinters. The cockpit goes silent. Only then does the pain arrive. It is immediate, crushing, and total. He tries to unbuckle but collapses against the side of the cockpit. Blood spills down his face, into his mouth, metallic and thick. He is carried out unconscious. The Red Baron vanishes from the sky in a smear of blood and canvas. They call it the Flying Circus because it looks like one. Brightly painted aircraft, striped wings, polka-dotted fuselages. Pilots dressed like performers, laughing beside machines built for slaughter. The unit moves constantly, tent city to tent city, following the shifting front like a traveling show. Officially, it is still Jagdgeschwader 1. Unofficially, it is Richthofen's kingdom, and its king is fading. On the ground, the Flying Circus lives fast and loud. Champagne appears after victories. Cigarettes glow in the dark. Music spills from gramophones into the night air. The pilots drink like tomorrow is theoretical, because for most of them it is. They race motorcycles between tents. They arm wrestle. They argue tactics like gamblers arguing odds. Above them, observation balloons drift like sleeping giants, waiting to be burned. This is not rest. It is anesthesia. Richthofen no longer fully belongs to them. He is promoted, decorated, photographed. He eats with officers. He is summoned to Berlin for ceremonies and interviews. He smiles when required. He shakes hands. To Germany, he is proof that the war is still winnable. To his pilots, he is both idol and warning. They admire him. They fear becoming him. At night, away from the engines and the noise, the headaches worsen. They come like artillery barrages, sudden, concussive, shaking him from the inside. Sometimes they steal his vision for seconds, sometimes minutes. Light feels sharp, noise feels violent, sleep becomes rare. When it comes, it brings dreams of spinning clouds, spiraling aircraft, endless falling through white emptiness. He begins to talk about death casually, not dramatically, not emotionally. Practically, he tells fellow pilots he does not expect to survive the war. He says it the way another man might discuss weather patterns. The hunter has begun to accept that he is also prey. Before the wound, Richthofen hunted with restraint. After it, he begins to push limits that no longer make tactical sense. He dives lower, chases farther, stays in fights longer. He violates the very rules Boyelka taught him, the rules that once kept him alive. It isn't recklessness in the youthful sense. It is something heavier, a slow indifference to outcome. The man who once treated survival like a calculation now treats it like a coin toss. He no longer cares to influence. April 21st, 1918. The war has changed since Bloody April. New aircraft are faster, guns are heavier. The sky is no longer the sanctuary it once was. Richthofen lifts off into pale morning light over the Somme. The red aircraft climbs slowly. The engine vibrates with familiar violence. Castor oil fumes cling to the back of the throat. The cold at altitude still bites, even in spring. This is not a ceremonial flight, it is a hunt. Below him, near the torn earth and drifting smoke, a British pilot strays from his formation. A single machine, flying low and fast, trying to escape north. Richthofen sees opportunity. He banks hard and dives. Wind tears at the wings. The engine's scream sharpens. The ground races upward, no longer an abstract blur but a detailed map of death. This is already wrong. Boyelka's rule echoes through memory. Never chase an enemy across the lines. Richthofen crosses them anyway. The British pilot flees at treetop height, desperate, erratic. Richthofen stays glued to his tail, firing in short, precise bursts. Canvas tears from the enemy's wings. Smoke puffs from the engine. But now the danger is no longer only in the sky. Now it is on the ground. Rifles crack upward. Machine guns swing skyward. Tracers claw past the red fuselage from every direction. The air below 1,000 feet is no longer air. It is a killing net. Still, Richthofen does not pull away. He is fixated. The hunter is no longer calculating risk. He is pursuing conclusion. A single shot rises from below. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just one round among hundreds. It strikes Richthofen from the right side, passing through his chest. There is no explosion, no fire, no immediate collapse, only a sudden, numbing impact and an internal weight, as if gravity has abruptly doubled. He has seconds. The aircraft begins to lose altitude. The engine still runs. The wings still hold. The red machine glides forward, shallow and steady, like a creature that hasn't yet realized it is dead. Richthofen does not fire again. He does not maneuver. He guides the aircraft down with what control he has left. The fighter touches down in an open field north of the Somme. It rolls gently. The engine sputters. The propeller slows, then stops. Silence rushes in. Infantry approach from both sides, weapons raised. For a moment, no one fires. The red aircraft sits at rest, improbably intact, as if the sky has simply set it down. They reach the cockpit. Richthofen is already dead. His face is calm. There is no panic in his expression, only stillness. The hunter's last flight has ended, not in flame, but in quiet earth. The Red Baron ended the war with 80 confirmed victories. But numbers alone cannot explain why his name still survives when most others vanished into archives. His legacy endures because he embodied the transformation of warfare itself. He began as a man with a rifle in the sky. He ended as a moving symbol, tracked by newspapers, hunted by enemies, projected onto a nation starving for heroes. Richthofen did not conquer the sky. No one ever truly has. He only borrowed it for a brief violent moment and paid for it in pieces of himself, long before the final bullet. In the end, the Red Baron was not taken by fire or by rivals or even by hatred. He was taken by gravity, by the ground, by the inescapable truth that no matter how high a man climbs, the fall is always waiting. This has been Trench Tales. We uncover the forgotten history of the Great War every day. If this story moved you, subscribe and join us in the trenches. New videos are coming soon.